Hey, good morning, my friend. Good to be with you again. Welcome to the after show with Greg Belfrage. This is where I kind of wind down from the morning show. If you're new, I am Greg Belfrage. I am the morning show host, almost 20 years at KELO in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we wind up talking about big news events of the day. Sometimes those are statewide, but especially given what's going on in the world right now. Generally, we wind up talking about big stories. Joe Biden withdrawing from the presidential race over the weekend, and there is still a follow up to that. So I want to take a quick look at some of the big news reports this morning. Again, as I'm prepping the radio show each morning, I'm most of my news gathering is between 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. Central. Well, in those hours while I'm on the air, there are some news stories that are coming to light, and I'm going to try to make the after show about touching on some of those stories. Um, there's not as much today as there has been on other days, uh, but certainly some significant stuff that I want to share with you this morning. So let's start taking a look at a few of those, and we will begin at the Washington Examiner. This is interesting. Some of the reaction. I'm interested in reaction from Democrats as to what's going on with Joe Biden drawing out of the race, Kamala Harris now getting the nod rather, and John Fetterman, who is someone who has, I think, been speaking more and more candidly, and especially since the attacks on Israel and his support for Israel. And uh, John Fetterman is one who's just not going to put up with a lot of the nonsense that's going on out there. And it's one of the reasons why I appreciate Senator Fetterman. A host of issues on which he and I can disagree, that's okay. We can disagree on things without being hateful about it. And I've got to say, John Fetterman is one of those people. I listen to him, and there are times where I go, yeah, totally disagree with that. And there are other times he gets my attention. And this morning is one of those times rather, that Senator John Fetterman has caught my attention. So he has been a big supporter of President Joe Biden. He said he was unimpressed with the members of his own party who pushed Biden out, and then praised him extravagantly only after he withdrew. That's something that certainly caught my attention. The pressure was on Joe Biden. It's got to get out, got to get out, got to get out, got to get out. The minute Joe Biden gets out, oh, he's the greatest we've ever seen. Oh, just lauding Joe Biden and heaping all of this praise on him. I thought that was incredibly hypocritical myself. That was my own reaction. I thought, you have got to be kidding me. These people are just, with they're shameless. I mean, they have no shame at all. And Fetterman is actually pointing that out. He said, "Spare me the soaring accolades from people with their fingerprints on the blades in our president's back." He said, "Oh, wow, John Fetterman not pulling any punches." Um, he wasn't the only unhappy Democrat in Pennsylvania. One longtime Democratic voter, a Union Democrat who has never voted Republican, said he felt Harris wasn't up for the job. "I hope it will be someone else. I don't like how they pushed Joe out." And I've got to say, here's the thing. The and I tried to be really mindful of this during on the program this morning, that um, I didn't want to be literally, dancing on the political grave of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, or understanding that you have some folks who are out there in tears. Um, and I do think with respect to John Fetterman and what he's saying. Yes, some of them are the same people with the whose fingerprints are on the knives in Joe Biden's back. Um, and yet at the same time, there are some pretty deep feelings that are out there. I mean, you saw this from Senator Chris Coons, who was part of the Biden campaign team. And Coons, who was in tears as he was talking about it yesterday, and others like that. Van Jones was another. I shared comments from Van Jones on CNN on Friday, and he was like, uh, you know, he had a comparison between Donald Trump surviving the assassination attempt and then Joe Biden going into isolation for COVID. Contrast those two views. Um, and he pushed hard to get Joe Biden out, and yet Van Jones was one of those on CNN. Jones was almost near tears. So I recognize that people have some pretty deep feelings regarding these candidates, whether it's or who wind up serving, like Joe Biden, who served as president. And there are people who are incredibly proud of him. Again, you'd have a hard time articulating that to me because, again, I've got a completely different perspective. But I recognize that this is a time that folks' emotions are really running deep. And I want to be respectful of that. And I really tried hard this morning not to dance on the president's political grave or so on. I continue to believe there are a lot of issues out here that have me troubled, have me worried. And so rather than rejoicing and mocking people who are, again, I understand they're genuinely disappointed that Joe Biden has made the decision to drop out of the race. And I understand their disappointment. I don't share it. I certainly understand it, though. So I don't want to be doing doing a tap dance on those people's, it just would not be very seemly. Other stories that are new this morning. This is from Axios. Biden spurns traditional media, avoids leaks by quitting race online. Now, that's what the president did. And I talked about this on the air this morning. The president released this statement on X, and he didn't go to NBC, he didn't go to CBS, he didn't go to CNN or ABC. The president went to X and posted a statement that he was dropping out of the race. And Axios notes that the announcement was posted to social media accounts around 1:45 Eastern time yesterday. In the hours before Biden quit, senior officials and press staff were still pushing back against the reports that he was considering stepping down. And I mentioned this on the air this morning. This is what's pretty amazing, that the president does that on X, but doesn't even let his staff know. That, to me, is incredibly disrespectful of the people on his team. Can you imagine being a Democrat who's all in on the president and running for re-election and carrying the president's water, and you are out there and you are telling the media, no, these reports of the president dropping out are untrue, and then you pull up X on your phone, and guess what? The president's dropped out of the race. There was something about that I've got to tell you, to me, is deeply, deeply disrespectful of the people that work for him. I mean, I just find, wow, that is incredibly disrespectful. Now, having said that, are you surprised? I'm not. See, I've long believed that the only guy that Joe Biden gives a crap about is Joe Biden. I have long believed that. And it's one of those things I really have to try hard on the air to keep that sentiment. I think, my personal sentiment sometimes from, uh, because I'm very uh, genuinely interested in your thoughts. As I pose those questions to you each morning and ask for your phone calls, I'm genuinely looking for your thoughts. And so sometimes it's easier to get your thoughts if I'm not taking a hard line position on something, unless I just feel like there's no other recourse, or I feel so strongly about something. And sometimes I do. I feel incredibly strongly about it. Something. It's like, yeah, I'm going to take a hard line position, like it or not. This is what I think. Um, and I'm never afraid to share those thoughts with you. But I do try to scale that back a little bit. It's a morning radio show. I understand folks are just getting up. They don't want somebody hitting them right between the eyes with, unless you have to. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes the news is such. Um, we've got enough of the media in this country that either want to scale down the scope of the news or just flat out don't want to even tell you what's going on. I don't want to be one of those people. I just don't. I have worked very hard to gain your trust. And I don't want to flush that down the toilet by ignoring stories because it's very convenient or I don't like them or whatever the reason. Um, but I just think for the president to have posted that decision on X and then staffers just find out about it, from X, that's how they learn about it. I just think that's an absolutely crummy way to run your administration, to treat the people who believe in you. Uh, that's lousy, isn't it? Or am I mistaken about that? I just think that's absolutely lousy. Again, I'm not surprised. That's Joe Biden. That's his style. I think he and his family are largely concerned about themselves. I mean, that has been my take and my belief here for a long time. He is a guy who is largely concerned about himself. And it wasn't until the polls were showing, and he had two very trusted staffers. One of them was a longtime staffer who came to him and said, yeah, we can't show, there's no path to winning the election. There's no path to winning. You cannot win. And it wasn't until he was showing you cannot win that he made the decision to step down. That's just remarkable. The way he did it, I think, was crummy, but that's surprising. So there's more on that at Axios. Um, I want to see some of your comments. Thank you, first of all, so much for being here. You're here for the next show. And again, this is exclusive on YouTube. So thank you so much for following. I couldn't do any of that. I couldn't do the radio show. Couldn't do this Steve said, I had the Secret Service Director testimony on the other monitor today. I'm not expecting any answers. I'm not either. And that is, as I mentioned on the air this morning, that will be a big story this morning. She's giving congressional testimony this morning. And again, I'm not expecting answers either, Steve. And that's pretty much part of the course when it comes to this. Not just this administration, when it comes to people in Washington, in general, those who are part of, I don't even know, the deep state. I, there was a time I would have said that, but really, those who are actually running events, it feels like a deep state to me these days. David also said, yeah, just imagine learning that your boss quit on X. He said, Kamala was his best. Well, I think, certainly Warren. I mean, that's front and center. And I continue to wonder whether the country is going to be able to recover from Joe Biden and the decisions that he made on the border. Is the country ever going to be able to recover from that? You've got millions of people who are loose in the United States with court dates that are set out for years that they're not going to show up for. Um, it's really deeply troubling. Let's take a look at the New York Post this morning. We've got some headlines. Off the Veep end, Biden delayed dropping out partly because he doubted Harris's chances against Donald Trump. Yeah, there was a report. I think it was from The Hill. I had it for you on the air this morning. No, it was Axios had it. Axios had a story. One of the reasons that Joe Biden waited so long, what Axios is saying, not me, is that he doubted the ability of the vice president. Now, I think those of us who have watched the videos, because the videos of Kamala Harris are legendary, and not in a good way, they are absolutely legendary. Yeah, it's not good. So you can't, if in fact that's true, you can't blame the president for that. Senator Joe Manchin confirms he not, will not be running for president. Manchin said, I don't need that in my life. No, no kidding. Trump says he doesn't believe, and I wonder if you agree with this. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Trump said Biden never had COVID. And I saw that this morning. Trump posted that on True Social. And this was, I don't know, about 10 o'clock last night that Donald Trump says, Joe Biden never had COVID. Oh, I thought the same thing when I heard that last week, that Biden had COVID. I didn't say anything on the air, but I thought to myself, no, he doesn't. He didn't have COVID. He was looking for an excuse to hide out in the bunker and to try to figure out where he was going. I never believed for a moment that he had COVID, especially when the reports last week were, and this was on Friday. There were a number of reports that the pressure was intense on Joe Biden and Democrats were calling on him, and you had more people who were stepping forward and were saying the president needed to drop out of the race. I never believed for a moment he had COVID. No. So he met with these supporters, and then I noticed in the reporting at Politico, they were keeping their distance. They were sitting apart from Joe Biden, keeping distance because the president had COVID. Oh, please. Can we stop with that fiasco now? Also, Newsmax has got a story here, and actually The Hill has done some polling. The Hill, in their latest average polling, Donald Trump has a 6-point lead over Kamala Harris. So as of Sunday, the Hill's latest average of polls puts Harris at 36.9% and Trump at 42.6%. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was also named in the poll, sits at 5.8%. Harris's favorability sits at 37.7% as of yesterday. She's got an unfavorability rating of 55.5%. And this is Scott Tranter, who's the director of data science at Decision Desk HQ, said her favorability nationally mirrors Biden. It's not great. So despite the reports that are out there this morning about $50 million that Kamala Harris has raised in no time and all the excitement that Democrats, well, of course Democrats are excited, and I don't blame them for being so. But yeah, that's not the whole story. Um, Also, there is a lot of questions surrounding the Secret Service. And Secret Service on Capitol Hill today. We'll have more on that tomorrow's Greg Belfrage show. We'll recap what happened today. That is taking place as we speak. So and this is at townhall.com. They said we've heard nothing from the Secret Service, who, like Biden, have scurried into their bunker like scared wombats. The shooter was seen with a range fire before opening fire. Reportedly flew a drone over the rally area. The Secret Service did not deploy a drone. The reason offered for not having a sniper team on the roof was due to physical danger. The sloped roof. Those of you who follow me on Facebook, I posted a photo for Roof Max. They're if you need roof repairs and that kind of thing, you want to have your roof coated. Here's Roof Max on these deeply sloped roofs. They're spraying stuff down, and you look at the guy, it's like, oh, I couldn't do that. I'd never survive on that roof. But the idea that you could not deploy people to the roof, Roof Max does it all the time. That's their business. Give me a break. It's just laughable. Many believe that the director of the Secret Service, Director Cheadle, should have been fired and resigned days ago. Who in this administration has resigned? Anybody? Anybody in this administration resigned? None of you have to have a degree of shame and responsibility to resign. I mean, it requires that you are capable of self-reflection and saying, I'm in over my head, or I screwed up. I mean, I made a fatal mistake, and you resign, and you turn the job over to somebody else. So I've seen reports that, the pressure was coming from Alejandro Mayorkas to Cheadle, you will not resign. Which, considering Mayorkas, does not surprise me, more that to be true. Anyway, there are a couple of reports that are out there. Michael Shelter, after the assassination attempt, the Secret Service said it had not denied repeated requests by Trump's security detail for more help. Yeah, it lied. Now the New York Times and Washington Post have confirmed our reporting and vindicated Dan Bongino. What else is being covered up? Schellenberger says. Yeah, Dan Bongino, I think, is one of the few who's been out there and been very truthful about what's been going on. Also, Susan Crabtree said this was breaking. Senator Ron Johnson and his staff have written an initial report from his bipartisan investigation informed by whistleblowers who have talked to his office. And she says, I've obtained the 13-page executive summary of it. I want to pull up more. She got a few key findings. Secret Service did not attend a security briefing provided to local special weapons and tactics, in other words, SWAT teams and sniper teams, the morning of July 13th. Why wasn't Secret Service there? There was a briefing. Secret Service was not there. Ron Johnson found. Also, and this just goes on, there was a 9 a.m. briefing on July 13th. Butler County Emergency Services provided a security briefing for the local SWAT teams and snipers. That's what the briefing was. And the local law enforcement said communications were siloed and they were not in frequent radio contact directly with the Secret Service. In other words, Secret Service was quiet. Why? You and I have heard reports that there were snipers that were, or excuse me, that there were, somebody on the road. Who was it? And the shooter was spotted. Why didn't we know any of this? There are just a lot of questions. And I think what we're going to see is the state of legacy media and this administration and Washington, the powers that be in Washington, try to cover that up incredibly. Also, there's a Republican congressman who claims that the shooter had 3 encrypted accounts overseas. And I had someone who was on the program, a caller this morning, first time caller, who was mentioning this. And this is the report that he was pointing to. The FBI trying to get access to 3 encrypted accounts based overseas, allegedly belonging to the attempted assassin, Donald Trump's. Representative Michael Waltz said he's been speaking with agents as the FBI continues to probe the attack, learning that the FBI believes that Thomas Crooks may have been linked to foreign accounts, and he shared that his thoughts on Jesse Waters' primetime last Thursday. He said, I think this is going to go much broader, much deeper. We're going to get to the bottom of this beginning Monday. Watts went on to say agents are now looking to hold Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle to account over the assassination attempt, claiming they're pissed and frustrated over the lack of resources that they have been providing. So the heat is on Kimberly Cheadle, the director of the Secret Service, as folks in Washington start to demand some accountability. And we'll call it a day for the after show. And again, I want to thank you for being here. Please hit the like button, hit the dislike button. It's very, very much appreciated. I can't thank you enough for being here. If you've got like-minded friends, please let them know what we're doing. It would be great to have more folks along as we do this each day. And I'm going to stay at it. And I think I mentioned this last week. I'm determined to do this for at least a year. And then a year from now, we'll kind of take a look and see how things are going. Are we able to build what I'm doing? Getting more people on board, more eyes on it. And I've got generally, there are anywhere between, 15 to 35 people that are viewing these, which incredibly, I'll say it's a modest number. It's a low number. It's what it is. Not trying to, one of the reasons I'm so grateful you're here. But folks are here and watching, and it's really deeply appreciated. So please do me a favor and help spread the word and let other like-minded folks know about it as well. So we'll call that a wrap for today. Hope to see you tomorrow, both on the air during the show and also here at the after show. So long until then, my friend. Take care. Have a great Monday, and may God bless.